just start it up again. So,
But yeah, so where I think where we stopped, what I would be interested in is maybe backtrack from the scuttle.get and see like how the data flows onto the screen.
um, so what are you asking? Are you asking where is this method called, or are you asking where is this get coming from?
Exactly, where's the get coming from?
Okay, yeah. So let's go back and look at this here. So um, so what is exported by this is a bunch of things. So it merges these nice mappings with the raw methods. So nice mappings is just a way. So the raw methods are in here. So they've just been like really verbosely grouped. So we've got gathering async get. If you call that method, it gives you, it's the get method. And and there's a shorthand here, which has been added. So it's just merging those two objects together, and then inject. What inject does is goes through and adds a copy of the server to every method, so that when you've instantiated the helper, all of the methods have had server plugged into them already for you. And so the function that you get when you call scuttle.get is this function starting here on line 15. And so it takes a key and a callback. And the first thing it does is it gets the original gathering that key was pointing at. And then it does that thing where it gathers all the backlinks, saying like all of the methods related to things. And it sorts them into the backlinks into what was part of the gathering and what was just like someone in a private message pointing at the gathering, which also will be picked up by backlinks. So it sorts those into like what's called the thread, what I've called the thread, and the just general backlinks. And then here I am building this pretty object. So the pretty object is a big merge of the key, all of the permitted properties from the gathering. So that'll be the progenitor and the mentions and stuff like that. Empty doc, I don't know what that is. Oh yeah, it like merges in some like empty things so that the state doesn't explode later. And then so reduce updates, what it does is it takes the thread and it
Creates a final updated version.
yeah, it looks like it goes through and I wrote this the other day and I can't remember how this works. Oh yeah, so it goes through each update and goes which of the properties are allowed to be updated, and then it goes through and it just collects them, and the reduce just keeps stapling on the new ones. So if it finds a title one, it'll like just whack it on there. Yeah. Yeah. So permitted updates, what it does is it like prunes down the whole content into just the parts that are allowed. Yeah. And yeah, so looks like it just keeps merging things over the top of one another. And the image thing is slightly different because it's you don't want to merge two parts of two different image definitions over the top of each other because it's an object that defines the image, whereas the title is just a single string and you just merge a string over the top of another string. So yeah, after all of that, what I've called this is a document, which is like the reduced state of all of that stuff is built. Then you call back with it, and so that's where you pop out here with this data.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So, any questions about that?
No, I think it pretty much makes sense.
Yeah. I think if you can just get the rough idea of it, then you can have a read about it. I don't necessarily expect you to like instantly understand all of my code just by glancing at it. Yeah. So okay. So the card. I wonder if I have the test thing for the card. No, it doesn't look like I do. So this here on the right is how I built some of the forms. Um, so what it does is it uses a piece of that form and it just fills in some of the details that were required. So like if we look at, so the gathering new form requires a bunch of these options to be filled in for it to be able to do its job. Like it needs to know this one's optional, this one has to be there because Scuttle is how it's going to publish the end result. And it needs to know what to do after it's published, like well, this is optional as well, and also what to do if a person clicks the cancel button. So the idea is that this could be put in anywhere. And so here I am putting in, like I've put a fake Scuttle object in there, so it doesn't. I don't even need to worry about any database stuff, but it just has Scuttle post because I know that's going to be called, and then it just does some silly console logging, and then I just attach it to the page. And this is run with this module called Electro that Dominic wrote. It's just a simple Electron abstraction. I don't really know how we did it, but means you can run a piece of code really quickly and you don't have to worry about necessarily running a database or like messing with the main scuttlebutt network. Okay, so that's the I wonder if I want to go into yeah, I probably don't want to go into how all of this was made. Maybe I want to show how this is plugged. So these are these fairly abstract neutral pieces of HTML, but then how I plug them into Patch Bay is a little bit more opinionated. So is this the right one? No. So this is where it gets like particularly messy because you need to know about how Patch Bay works. And Patch Bay uses something called Patch Core and Depject, and it's kind of a wild alternative to Require. So the main benefit of it is that it lets you with Require, if you require a particular thing, like if you say, I want to require the message renderer, the thing that renders the messages, that would have to be written once in one place, like the definition of that. What Depject allows you to do is say, hey, any of these things could render a message, and like as a message is passed to the function goes, yeah, I know how to render that, or it goes like, nah, I don't know. And then it gets passed to the next one and the next one and the next one until it finds something. So um, all of the things here have these are post messages, and so somebody has defined a thing that knows how to render post messages, and they come out in this format. This message here, this about message, this is like the fallback render. It's like if you don't know how to render something, just render the default view, which is like show us the time, who did it, and what the type was. So it's at least something. And this top one here is me teaching it how to render a gathering type post. So maybe I'll look at that. This is gathering show. And so this is the format that you use with DeepJuke. You say, look, here's the thing that I'm offering up to the ecosystem, message HTML layout. I'm going to show you how to lay out a gathering type message. And I'll skip over the needs bit for a moment. And so what happens is the message comes in and we check if it's a gathering, and if it's not, we just pass it on. Yes. So needs is kind of like the require. This is like all of the other things that I need from other parts of the ecosystem. So this is a connection to the ethbot. That's probably the most important for us here. But also like, hey, does someone know how to render an avatar? And does someone know how to render Markdown in a particular scuttlebutt way? So all of these requires follow the same pattern, and it's the first part is kind of the domain. So about, like about people or about things. The second part is like the type. So this will return HTML. And then this is like a specific case of that. So like there's like also about HTML name might be a thing as well if you wanted to be able to print out people's names. And first is saying, I just want the first match. There are other options where you can say, I want all matches. But first is the most common. Yeah. Yeah. This is probably the trickiest thing about working with Patchbane, maybe.
Is this documented somewhere, or like can you see like what's all that's available to me?
Good question. The best way is, let's have a look. To be honest, I wouldn't trust the readme of this very much. It's really just go in here and look. So the good thing is that the folder structure kind of tells you about what's there. So if you want things related to blobs, which are like attachments and images, you look in the blob folder. And then if you want to render some HTML, well, it doesn't render it. But if you want to do something async, like add files, then there's a method in here which will do that. And so there's no documentation there. It's really not great. But do you have anything else that's useful? Yeah. Contact, async, follow, unfollow, follower of, block, unblock. So these are methods that are returned by this. So these are asynchronous methods which let you follow and unfollow someone. What would be another thing you would do? I'm looking for like how you would like something or unlike something. So this would this shows you the image of a person. So if you put in an ID, it um, goes and builds an image thing with the source of that image, of the image of the person, and about ob's image URL goes and takes care of getting the URL for you without you having to know about the details too much. Oh yeah, this is one of the yeah. Some of this code is a little bit dense. Yes. I think the best way to know what's available is look at go look at how things have been done in Patch Bay and Patchwork, which is far from an ideal way to learn. Um, um, so where was I? Winding back to. So this is how the this is how the this show message is rendered. Um, this there's a part of Patch Bay which is passing messages to things that know how to render different layouts, and this one happens to match if it's a gathering, in which case it goes and does a bunch of things. It goes and builds this show view, and here we are passing in all of the different bits and pieces for how to render Markdown. If you had a different Markdown module, it means you could pass it in here. Here's the bit which teaches it how to render an avatar. It's like a function provided by this about HTML avatar. And then finally, those things are just returned like this. So the modal is a thing which that I've hidden in there, which when you click on this, it pops up the editing modal. Okay, so we're almost at an hour, which has gone incredibly quickly. And I don't feel like we've got to the point where we can talk about extending some of the code. What's a good next step from here? Like, where would you like to? Do you have any questions before we close? And what would you like to do next after this call?
No, so I think questions wise, probably there's probably still a lot of reading and understanding I have to do, and maybe for after this call, so we can quickly go through how. So I was looking at the different things that we can do in Scurry, and one thing that seemed a good point to start was, like, you can say I'm not coming to a gathering.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that could actually be really good, and also I feel it's like not that big a piece, so
Yeah,
maybe I can start with that.
I think it's a good idea. So I think that would be good because it would force you to go and look at Scuttle gathering and see how the state is reduced for this people attending and how you could modify it to gather, to sort out the people who aren't attending. And then you would have to figure out how to display it here. And then I think the other thing that you would need to modify after that would be you'd want a button here which says like unattend. I don't know if there's a better word for that, if a person's already attending. But if they haven't clicked attend yet, and having an option to say can't attend, so that because at the moment this is the only option is you are either attending or you're cancelling your attending, but you're adding a new concept which is like declare that you can't go would be a thing that you could do from the start.
So that would also need like a new message type.
No, it doesn't need a new message type. The so down in the attendee message type, it has an attendee property. You can go and have a look at it. The easiest way is to like go in here into Patch Bay and click that plus button, which moves annoyingly now because of some styling changes, and go and look for the message which shows you attending. And so here's attending. Let's go look at what it just did. I published 2 messages. The first one was like me saying I'm no longer attending. So this has the form. I'm saying that this person, which is me, please remove them. So this is the way that you remove someone. So if you published a message at the start which just said remove me, even if you're not on the list, that would be the same as saying I can't go.
True.
Yeah. So I think that's it could be a really good task. You could go and have a look at the schema. You could come and look at how this is reduced, and you could also write some tests around it. So I've got some tests in here, so you can. Yeah, it might be a little bit involved. We'll see. So you could write a test around that case where a person publishes that they are not attending and that it shows up correctly in the results. Yeah.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. I think it'll yeah, I think the first feature might take some time, but after that it'll get easier.
Nice. So yeah, I think I'll